Hi all, let's get started on this speedline technique. So I've got a base object here, which is the object we'll be following along with. I'll be using a little bit of bullet on this. So here it is, as you can see. I've called it the bend weight map. It's got 0% on the base corners and everything else is 100%. So the 100% stuff is the bit that deforms. Let's get on with the speed lines. We're going to use a 2-point poly chain which is going to be displaced in layout, so we need a weight map to begin with. So let's create one here. Weight map. Let's click the plus button and we'll call this tail. Let's give it the initial value of 0. Okay to that. Now under the map tab, let's go to weights. Okay, that gives us this, but what we need is the origin to be at 0 and this tail end to be at 100%. So what we could do, let's reset this. Let's go to automatic, 100%, and click apply. Now what you see straight away is it's on the wrong axis, so let's do that. Click on the Z axis, click apply, and you'll see again it's in the wrong direction. So let's undo that. Let's click that one and then apply again, and here we go. So 0%, 100%. That's all we need to do there. Okay, let's close that down. Next step is to delete points, which leaves us a 2-point poly chain. F3, rest on ground, minus, so that'll square us all up so that the front point is right at the origin. And then what we're going to do is we're going to scale down to the origin, but we're not going to scale all the way to 0. We're going to just leave a little bit of a space at the end, so it can come down quite a bit, just not all the way to 0. So okay that. I'm also going to give this a different surface name from the box, so I've already created it. Select lines in this case. Okay that. Save. So what we have is we have our speed lines, we have a box, and we've got a 2-point poly chain, and that's all the modelling we need. Welcome to layout. So to speed things along, I've animated our box a little bit and I've added some bullet. So these are my bullet settings. I've only really played with 4 settings, which is 5 settings: shape retention, shape lock set to translation rotation, and these 3 below it, which gives me, well, it just adds a little bit of personality to the box for no extra effort. Okay, so let's get on with the lines. Our box is selected, so let's go to setup, store selected. Now then let's pop over to our 2-point poly chain and assign the box as the parent. So it should now be a child of the box. Now into translation mode, and let's this is where I like the new fixed feature. Let's just move it back slightly. We have the 2-point polygon chain selected, so let's pop over to the geometry tab, under properties, add modifier, and we're going to use the old Inertia plugin, which I have mixed results with most of the time, but it works great with a 2-point poly chain like this. So let's select our tail weight map and press play, and you'll notice nothing happens. That's because we need to give it an input value here. So an input of 2. Let's knock this back a bit, shall we? So it's 30 frames. Here we go. So we can crank that all the way up to a value however you see fit. Okay, let's texture this. So let's jump over to VPR. I've turned off the GI and the gradient background. We'll go and jump to with the 2-point poly chain selected, we'll jump over to the edges tab and we'll thicken it up a little bit. We'll give it a minus point, let's say 1 for now. So let's jump on to the nodes now. Let's type in turbulence, and we'll use just a simple turbulence color into the tapered line, or the line's taper. Let's double click on that and you'll see not a lot happens. That's because in reality it's a very small piece of geometry, but what we do, if we click world deform, we see the texture, if you like, in world coordinates. Let's knock down the size of the texture a little bit to see a little bit more what's going on. Let's thicken it up, so there you go. 0.5, 0.5. That's kind of okay for this, I think, because we don't need it to be that thick. We only need a subtle variation, so 0.2, something like that. No, it's too much. 0.6. Okay, that'll do for now. So that's one of our points in place. Let's add a couple more, and quite simply, let's clone it. Let's go. Let's clone it twice, and then let's give ourselves a bit more timeline. Let's try on a spin. So again, this is where the fixed function comes really to hand in 2018. We can just move and get a good idea exactly where our paths will be. Now what you find when you're doing this, although you've set up your lines in one location, which look quite good, they won't look necessarily as good in other locations. So let's address that now. Let's start off with the spin, because I quite like those. It's a little bit strange to start in the middle, but I have. So let's select those and label those a particular group, in this case purple. Lovely. With each of these speed lines you could obviously go in and vary the amount of lags to add variety, but for this, for demo purposes, I'm going to keep them all the same length. What I'm going to do is use dissolve to bring them in and out at the correct points. Now there's a script by Mike Green. It's also part of the OD toolset. I think Ryan Roy has one in his toolset as well. There are a couple of buttons that I've mapped to a menu here called Dissolve 0, Dissolve 100. And they do exactly that at the press of a button. So let's go to the first frame of our spin, and that is the point I want them to be fully visible. Dissolve 0, and then let's go all the way to the beginning and make them 100% dissolved, so they will be invisible. Make sure you select them all. Dissolve 100% so we can no longer see them, and at this point they will pop on, and then when we get to the last frame we just want to dissolve them up to 100%, and you'll see they're gone. So if we look at the graph editor, what that script does is it puts a stepped envelope on that dissolve channel. That's the spin sorted. Let's address the first part of this move. So let's get it into place. So none of those are particularly relevant to us now, so let's clone one of these. Let's call it green, and again we'll just move this one into place. Let's bring up its graph editor and kill off these envelopes here. So we want right at the beginning, we want to see it dissolve 0, and then we'll get to the end. And then dissolve it to 100%. That's simple enough. Clone it as many times as you like. Let's go 3 on this instance. Again, this is where the fixed this comes in useful. Saves so much creating keyframes and deleting keyframes. So that's that. and you get the general idea. So again, you could duplicate those layers up, parent them around and move them to where you want to. Okay, just to add to that technique, I've stripped it back to just the spin section because I think you might like this. So we've got the, as before, we have the spin, we've got the dissolve on each of the pieces. Now let's look in VPR, and it would be nice if there was a way to taper out each of these lines rather than just a solid piece, albeit slightly distorted. But we can do that, and we can use FiberFX to do that. So let's select this piece here, for instance. Let's turn the other two off for now. Actually, we don't need VPR these days, so if we click on that, we can go to Effects Tools, FiberFX. Okay, so let's activate that one and the OpenGL preview. Okay, you can't see much at this point, but what we need to do is to give it a lot larger width. So let's go to 0.2. That's quite nice, albeit slightly too large. Let's go 0.1 millimeters. Let's add some form to this fiber width. So we're going to click on the texture next to it. Layer type will be gradient, and our input parameter will be fiber. Now, one end we want to be whatever our fiber width is, and at the other end we want it to be 0. So let's put in 0 there at one end, and then at this other end put another keyframe. Now is it this end, alpha 0? No, I've got that the wrong end, so that's it's this end that needs to be alpha 0, and the reason I've put alpha 0 there is so I have control of that width on this slider here. So that's nice, and straight away I've got a nicely tapered fiber. Now going into the FiberFX, let's set everything to 0. Now if I can remember rightly, command right mouse button and then right mouse button with the option down will paste that value in there, so they're all now white. Let's kill off the speck and all that stuff for now. Okay, that's pretty good. Let's turn off VPR because we don't think we need that so much. There we go, so that's looking pretty nice. But we've got a bit of a funny end here. And the reason for that, I think, if we look at our rotation, is our heading is slightly off, so it's trying to sort of bend around at the edges. So if we just line our end up, so we're following the direction of the path, we've got a nice fiber. Look at that. Okay, so now we've got that. Let's well, for no effort at all, let's just add some more. So all we got to do, let's give ourselves 7 speed lines. Let's move out radius straight away. Look at that, we've got 7 of them. I mean, you could go crazy with the speed lines. Let's just see what's going on with the dissolve, see whether that it's following. It doesn't seem to be following the original. So if we wanted it to dissolve at that point, for instance, let's try that. Let's try our script again. Plugs, dissolve 100. Yes, that's worked. Great. So we've got full control over those fibers as well. Listen to those fans kicking in. So the styling is obviously useful to us. Don't want any kinks necessarily. Random length 50. Yeah, it's a little bit unpredictable, so you're gonna have to play with that. But all those settings are there to play with. just to add extra variety, which is always nice. And some work clearly better than others. So a quick note about 2-point poly chains and FiberFX being in the same scene. As soon as you create a FiberFX, it actually turns off the 2-point polygons. So if you see here, so if we turn back on our polygon, 2-point polys, which we quite liked, you'll notice you can't see them. That is because when you, as I say, when you turn on FiberFX, it disables the render lines, so you need to turn that back on if you want to see them. But then you're possibly into the trouble if you can see the original, which the FiberFX is attached to. And under those circumstances, what you want to do is you want to pop over to the render tab and just turn off, or turn on rather, unseen by rays and all these ones, and turn off the shadows. So that way you've got the best of both worlds. Good, I hope that was of use to somebody. Let me know.